Mindfulness isn't woo-woo. That's what so many believe, and why some people, when I talk to them about it, check out before I get to really talk about what it really means. Mindfulness is neuroscience. And today I'm going to show you exactly how it works and how it can change your brain, your relationships, and your life. And I'm going to tell you exactly how it changed mine. I'm Leslie, an MSW, a former attorney, a mom, a former therapist, and a former photographer, and now psychotherapist, coach, and host of this podcast, Pulling Threads, Weaving Authenticity. Every week, I explore different practices that kind of help us untangle old patterns and reweave a life that we actually want to live, because that's what I have done. And today's episode is very special because it's about one of the most powerful evidence-based tools that we have for healing, for growth, for rebuilding during life transitions, and for stress management. It has been researched. There's functional MRI data supporting how well it works, and it can be more powerful than medication. This is mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR. If you don't believe me, Google it. There's a ton of research out there and evidence to support it. But I'm going to start telling you about how this work changed my life. It 100% helped me survive during my divorce. Any way you cut it, divorce is traumatic and stressful. And I knew I needed help. I had a therapist. I had an incredible team of friends holding me up. But this tool and this program, which is an 8-week program, helped me regulate my own nervous system. While I was in my 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction program, I also was in a terrible accident with one of my best friends who was left in a coma. I am so grateful that I was already in that 8-week program, because it helped me really keep my sanity and clarity and my breath and move forward. It gave me a chance to time out and to realize what embodiment meant, what it meant to feel what PTSD was doing in my body, and recognize when that was happening. It also helped me find direction and what I wanted to do with my life post-divorce, and helped me stay grounded in a time that probably was the worst time of my life. But it didn't always feel that way, because I was able to use mindfulness-based stress reduction to get through. Because of its impact, I went on to train in MBSR at Brown University in the lineage of Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, the founder of the MBSR program at University Mass Medical Center. Today, I want to teach you what MBSR really is. Why? Because I will soon be using that training to start MBSR groups. And I want to help educate you on what it is. Here in Florida, I'll be doing the groups virtually. Eventually, I may do in person, but MBSR groups are available all over the country. And some people do prefer doing them in person. I've done only MBSR online and felt like I was adequately able to connect with people. And I liked being in my own home, to have the comfort of home, so I could position myself where I wanted during the sessions. So why is it so different from just breathing, and what's the research show about how it rewires the brain? Great question. It's not just meditation, although it does involve some meditation. It's an 8-week program that is backed by tons of research, and it was designed to help people manage stress, pain, trauma responses, burnout, and emotional overwhelm. Its original purpose was to help in a pain clinic. Cut. then cut back in. It's not a meditation app. It's not emptying your mind. It's not just breathing until you feel calm. This is a more systematic training in something called interoception, or noticing what's happening in your body. You may have it called embodiment. Trains you on attention regulation, strengthening your focus like a muscle response flexibility, pausing before you react, compassion, being a safe place for yourself, and nervous system regulation, shifting from survival mode to stability. The research for MBSR is stunning. It impacts the amygdala, shrinking emotional reactivity, the prefrontal cortex, improving decision-making and emotional regulation. And it works on the default mode network, decreasing rumination and overthinking, which, let's face it, we can all use help in that area. This program helps people move from I am overwhelmed by my life to I can navigate what's happening with clarity. For me, recently, instilling the mindfulness-based stress reduction template into my life has helped me in growing my business, managing all the stress that entails, and having the clarity to say, I need help, and these are the people I need. These are the tools I need to get this off the ground and make it thrive and be able to serve the people who I want to serve. So I want to bring you into other moments in my life where mindfulness wasn't just helpful, but it was necessary for survival. First, as I said earlier, my divorce. It was exhausting. It was overwhelming. And there were many times when I was dysregulated. My nervous system was on fire. If you know anything about nervous systems, sometimes ours thinks the lion is chasing us and then we are in danger. And just because of the nature of the process, my nervous system was firing constantly. I couldn't think clearly enough to even advocate for myself at times. Thankfully, I had an attorney who could help me, but I also really needed to be able to drop in and do a body scan and figure out what was going on when I felt this sense of panic and overwhelm and extreme fear. MBSR helped me learn to separate my thoughts, my emotions, and my body's survival response and understand the things I was feeling and why. For the first time in my life, I understood I wasn't too emotional. I wasn't broken. My nervous system was just in distress, and I recognized what that felt like so that I could take a step back and take care of myself in those moments where my nervous system had taken over and I wasn't able to be rational and clear about what I wanted to do. I actually had tools because of the program to meet my nervous system and say, okay, I understand what's happening right now. So I need to pause, or I need to take time for myself, or do a grounding exercise. Prior to MBSR, I had no idea that my nervous system had taken over. None. And I would say I lived a lot of my adult life like that, not understanding why I was overthinking, why I was ruminating about things that were outside of my control. And I couldn't stop it. Then, in the midst of my divorce, I took a trip to Cabo San Lucas to see one of my dearest friends because she said, come here and I'll take care of you. She knew I was struggling. And the day I arrived, we were in a really serious crash. My friend ended up in a coma, which she stayed in for several months. And I won't go into the details, but the shock, the adrenaline, the fear, it lasted for such a long time. The flashbacks, the triggering, it was probably the worst thing I've ever experienced in my life. And I remember sitting alone in the hospital, unable to think clearly, unable to even process. I had word finding issues because of my own injuries. And I remember only being able to find relief in my breath. Because of the level of trauma I had experienced, I had to use visual stimulation or auditory in order to really find my breath and find my grounding, literally one moment at a time. But the MBSR training taught me that was normal for someone who had been through like a traumatic event or had a lot of history of trauma. And in my teacher training, I learned to help teach people that meditation might actually be triggering, but I could teach people, and I taught myself, how to meditate in a way that didn't feel triggering or that was tolerable so that my nervous system could calm. Mindfulness didn't erase what happened. It didn't erase the trauma or the months and now years that it's taken for myself and my friend to heal from that accident and for my family to heal from the divorce process. But it did prevent my nervous system from imploding, and it gave me a lifeline back to myself. And I will say it gave me a lifeline to my future, which is now. That was years ago. I implement the things I learned in MBSR and the things I teach into my everyday life. It's implemented in how I eat, how I make my coffee in the morning, how I sit outside, how I go for a walk, how I engage with virtually everyone in my life. And that's why I teach it now, because I know it holds. And the last story about how it impacted me is something that I'll try to get through without tearing up. But my kids will say to me, and they said it a lot over the first few years of having mindfulness play such a huge part of my life. They still say it today. They'll say, Mom, remember when you used to yell? Remember when you were a yeller? I yelled and I lost it because I was reactive. Mindfulness and MBSR, the program, rewired my brain to help me be responsive and to recognize that I need to pause. And I credit that to the success of my current relationship, which is incredible. I credit to having a better relationship with my children and my friends, and for being able to be an effective therapist and hold space and not be triggered and dysregulated by my clients who need me to be regulated. So let's talk about the science of why it works, because I'm sure in your mind right now, you're thinking it sounds so simple. But there are a few key research findings that I always share with my clients. The amygdala, which is the part of your brain that your fear and threat center live, they just become less reactive when you do MBSR and when you do the practices in the 8-week program. This means you don't go into fight or flight every time a text comes in from your ex or your boss or your attorney or your mother, whoever it is that triggers you. MBSR strengthens your prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain that helps you plan, stay calm, make rational decisions. I work with a lot of people who are going through divorce, and this is everything for them. I work with people who are going through supporting someone through a major trauma. It's everything. MBSR works with your default mode network and it quiets it. This is the part of the brain that fuels rumination. Mindfulness reduces those obsessive loops that keep you awake at night and give you relief so you can sleep or get your work done or focus on a project or enjoy your life and experience more joy and more gratitude and less rumination and obsessing. Uh, Mindfulness helps your nervous system learn how to return to safety, not intellectually, not by intellectualizing and overthinking, but somatically. Your body learns, I can come down from this. I can do this on my own. It's not mystical. This is biology. This is how our body works and what our body responds to. And there is so much science and so much evidence that we can see in MRIs what happens to people's brains when they practice mindfulness and use a MBSR. After their 8-week program, there are changes because of neuroplasticity in the brain. Mindfulness is not something that only happens on a cushion. It shows up in the messy, real moments too. For me, it often shows up in the front seat of my car when I need to take a moment and when I'm having a hard conversation, when I'm in a moment of conflict and my chest tightens and I can feel myself leaving what I call my window of tolerance. Mindfulness teaches me to catch that first signal, that first change in my body, the tightness in my chest, my shoulders being tense, my breath shallowing. And that micro awareness interrupts the automatic reaction. And you pause. And when you pause, you get to choose how you want to respond. And you get to stay grounded or find a grounded place. For me, it's always my hand on my chest. This is emotional regulation in action. And this is what you learn in MBSR. As I said, often use mindfulness in my car after I get a triggering text or have a phone conversation that's triggering or an negative interaction with my kids on the way to school. You know the times when you open your phone and you see something there that instantly makes your stomach drop. And MBSR, your inner dialogue shifts from the panic. You still feel the panic, okay? There's a spike. Your heart is racing. And this is a moment you recognize that's happening. You place a hand on your chest, maybe on your steering wheel, and you inhale for 4, exhale for 6. You reclaim access to your thinking brain instead of it going offline. Meaning you don't need to send a reactive text or yell at your kids or do anything that you regret. I use mindfulness. My favorite thing is to use mindfulness while I make coffee in the morning. I've done this now for a very long time. I use a pour over coffee every chance I can just so I can use my ritual. And this small act of being mindful first thing, and one of the first things I do is going to change the structure of the rest of my day. You feel the warmth of the mug, you feel or you smell the scent of the coffee. The warmth come up on your face. What does your feet feel like on the floor? What does that first taste feel like in your mouth? All of these things and being so hyper present during that activity anchors your body. So when stress arrives later, you meet it with a more regulated baseline instead of an overwhelmed one. And this is how you want to start your day. Some people do it in the shower. I love having a mindful shower where I'm just focusing on the water hitting my skin. So why is this all so powerful? It sounds like common sense. For women, specifically navigating a divorce, since a lot of my listeners are doing that, or experiencing heartbreak, or people who've gone through trauma, or maybe you're rebuilding a life or restarting a career or starting a new career. This work is really foundational and impactful. When your nervous system is dysregulated, you can't think clearly. You can't advocate for yourself or trust your intuition or discern what decisions are aligned, what decisions are fear-based. Mindfulness gives you your agency back. It gives you the power to choose what you want and see things more clearly. So, mindfulness-based stress reduction happens in groups with other people, which is one of the most transformative elements. The group is part of the medicine, and that's because you're going through this transformation with others in this shared humanity. So many of the sessions, you're sharing experiences you've had, and there's some shared shame sometimes, um, sharing life events. You might hear another woman say, I felt overwhelmed this week too. What's going on? I thought I was the only one who was struggling. That allows some of that shame to evaporate. Realizing you're not alone helps you realize that you're human. The group also really buys into the power of co-regulation, which creates safety. Sitting with other regulated bodies helps your nervous system settle, and it's literally biology. The science shows us that when we are in the room or in a space or even online in a virtual classroom with people who are regulated, we become more regulated. And I can tell you, I was worried about doing my training and my session online. I looked locally and it was around COVID time, so there were no groups that were in person. I loved being in those rooms. I miss it. I did the training at Brown for 2 more years, and I miss those spaces, being in a virtual classroom with a lot of people who are regulated and locked in. It's incredibly powerful. So we also learn through resonance, like someone else's insight can become your breakthrough. So people share stories in the group. You don't have to, but you'll see other people's stories really help you see your own patterns sometimes, or maybe someone else's pattern that's in your life. There's also like a lot of built-in accountability because we tend to show up more fully when we show up together. So we have breakout rooms, people start getting to know each other because they do share stories and their experience implementing the things that the homework we're doing every week. I also think that healing really accelerates in a community. I think we heal each other as we heal and we surround one another. So if it's women rebuilding their lives and navigating heartbreak or learning to regulate instead of react, mothers, like when they breathe together and heal together and reflect together, the transformation is absolutely incredible and exponential. It's growing. What I love about teaching MBSR in a group is that everyone gets to borrow the steadiness and the courage and the compassion of the circle. It's not just you facing your life, it's all of us learning, including me. And the groups I've taught thus far have taught me even more about my journey and mindfulness. So if you're listening and thinking, I need stress reduction, who doesn't? If you're thinking, I want that steadiness and I want to feel like myself again, and I'm tired of living in a reactive mode, then I want to invite you to my upcoming MBSR group. My first group will launch at the end of January, and it is going to be specifically for women navigating separation, divorce, and breakups. So, this is where neuroscience is going to meet a lot of self compassion and help regulate, rebuild, and rise. You don't have to navigate those things alone. There are tools, there's a path, and I want to walk through it with you. So the details for the program are going to be in the show notes and on my website. And for anyone who may be interested in mindfulness-based stress reduction, who are men, other women who are not going through divorce, separation, or breakup, please leave me a note and let me know. A lot of my audience are going through those things, but certainly not everyone. And I am interested to know what the demand is. And I would certainly be willing to start up another group in February for people who are not in that category. if there is enough interest. So leave me a note, send me a message, DM me, whatever, and let me know if you're interested. So in to leave you today, I'm going to leave you with the words of John Kabat-Zinn, who says, "You cannot stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." And that's really at the heart of MBSR, because life is always going to bring us waves, whether it's divorce or trauma or heartbreak or loss or reinvention or just being busy at work, having a new baby. But you can train your nervous system to ride them with clarity and steadiness and compassion. And mindfulness is the way to do that. So thank you for joining me today on Pulling Threads. If this episode supported you, please subscribe, leave a review, let me know other things that you are curious about, and share this with someone who needs it. And if you're ready to explore MBSR more deeply, I'm here for it. You can find everything in the show notes. Until next time, take a breath, feel your feet on the floor, and remember, you are becoming, and I am here for it. Thank you.